All right, everybody, time now 1:05. Meteorologist Danny, Cassidy, and myself tracking some strong thunderstorms now moving through the area. Nothing severe at the moment, but these are some strong thunderstorms. So we wanted to provide you with a resource as to what's happening out there and what we continue to expect over the next several hours. Let's go ahead and take a live look at Doppler radar. You're going to notice a big batch of heavy thunderstorms with a decent amount of heavy rain, frequent lightning, and thunder. And in the strongest of thunderstorms, just as expected, we're seeing some gusty winds out there. We're going to begin first in the River Valley. That's where our strongest thunderstorms, currently producing nearly 50 or so mile-per-hour winds, are going to continue to be moving into the area. Again, the threshold for a severe thunderstorm warning is 58, and a lot of us are right below that limit. Impactful nonetheless. You can see in parts of Leflore County, especially northern Leflore County near Fort Coffee, Panama, Spiro, a very intense thunderstorm moving through the area that extends towards Cameron, Shady Point as well, all up and down Oklahoma 271. Over towards the state line. Those winds are going to get quite breezy out there this afternoon. That's in addition to the heavy downpours that you're probably going to be seeing. So if you're at the Poto Balloon Festival, you name it, this storm's probably going to linger for you for at least a little bit. Certainly the rain is going to continue, even though it might be a little bit less intense on the backside of that cell. We'll work our way into parts of Sebastian and Crawford counties as well as Sequoia. What we're going to find here, some strong thunderstorms that also are just below that severe weather threshold. I would say these are a little bit weaker than the storm moving through parts of Leflore County, but you notice some good heavy downpours all up and down the area. Rain now moving into parts of Fort Smith. We'll continue to see this cell. It's going to be tracking east-northeast, so I would expect that thunderstorm, with all of the rain and the wind that is producing right now, to be impacting Fort Smith here shortly. We did have a weather report. This was in Sallisaw. This was an actual measurement, so not necessarily an estimate. It was an actual measurement in Sallisaw, 51 miles per hour. So with the threshold to get a warning at 58, we're pretty close to that, right? Of course, radar is doing a good job sampling that, given how close we are to the Fort Smith radar. We'll work our way into parts of Crawford County. Intense thunderstorm near Natural Dam, Cedarville, Lee Point. It's not severe either, but some good downpours, heavy downpours, a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder around the area. We get into parts of Washington County from Winslow through Prairie Grove, West Fork, and Elkins as well. We'll go into Fayetteville. A lot of folks in town for the Razorback game. It is family weekend. There's all of the craft fairs going on around the area. So we'll zoom in a little bit more. Here's Razorback Stadium right now. Of course, the game was pushed back until 4:30. Kickoff was initially scheduled for 2:30. They moved it back 2 full hours. There's been plenty of lightning around the stadium, so if you're at the football stadium tailgating perhaps, I got to tell you, it's probably not going to get much better in terms of conditions for at least a little while longer. If you look back off towards the west, what we've got coming from parts of Adair County, southwestern Washington County, is going to be tracking up your direction. So the rain over the next couple of minutes might lighten up just a bit where we get these pockets of some green, but this is what's following you right there. That's going to be all tracking up your direction. And so the conditions at the Razorback game, probably not the best. You can see some of these lightning strikes. I've got them probably a little bit too small, but you can see if you look closely, all of that's lightning. That'll continue pushing towards the northeast. If you hear thunder, go indoors. That's what they say, right? So if you're tailgating, just know that you've got some rough weather heading your way, whether it's not severe. While it's not severe, it's certainly going to be a strong thunderstorm. In Benton County, things right now are pretty steady with some light to moderate rainfall, a little bit of lightning and a little bit of thunder across northwest Arkansas, broadly speaking. Heaviest of thunderstorms now over the community of Beaver, not far from the Beaver Dam right there. Eureka Springs getting a nice big thunderstorm. We're pretty calm in Madison County with the exception of some light rain west of Huntsville. All that's tracking your way though. So if you're in Madison County and you're wondering, well, where's it at? Well, it's knocking on your back doorstep. Probably going to be with you there here relatively shortly. Let me do this. I'm going to go back area wide, and what we're going to do is we're going to loop this over the last hour so that you have an idea of kind of how quick this is moving and the general trajectory that these showers and these storms are moving. So right now, the bulk of the worst is pretty much either right to the east of the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line, or if you get into parts of the I-40 corridor and south, we're kind of just to the west of the state line, but it's all moving east-northeast into your neck of the woods. Right now, the strongest really looks to be the cell coming into the Fort Smith area, as well as the cell back towards Heavener and Worcester there in southern LaFleur County. All of that, though, pushing into the greater 5 News viewing area. Thankfully, things are not severe at the moment, although that potential is certainly there. In fact, we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for the entire 5 News viewing area. This is going to run until 6 o'clock tonight. Meteorologist Danny Cassidy has been in all morning long tracking the forecast, and we're going to send things over to him for some analysis there.
Yeah, Scott, and one thing you did see there, right, the watch is already being canceled. The original watch had a lot of eastern Oklahoma, and once that main initial line, that line out in front goes through, the severe threat really is done for the day. We could just still see some storms behind it. Scott did report of an official report of 51-mile-per-hour gusts in Salsa. There also was an estimated from a storm chaser on the north side of Salsa that reported a power flash and brief loss of power. That was roughly maybe 58 to 60 miles per hour. But I do want to show you that in that area, as Scott was showing you, the velocity of it is pulsed down a little bit, which is obviously good news. So you can see basically, not necessarily a gust front, so to speak, but kind of on the edge when you see these reds and greens kind of clashing. These are where the winds really start to pick up in this area, and you're seeing that wind shift direction. So that's where we're seeing that southerly to westerly wind. That's where you're going to see the strongest of the wind. So basically, it's moving through Fort Smith as we speak. But note that if we kind of just query some areas, just like, okay, let's take a look at some of the winds here. 30 miles per hour, okay, I mean, that is still pretty gusty, but, you know, not close to the 50 or 60 we were seeing earlier. 37 there, closer to that northwest of the Alma area, 38. So things have diminished at least a little bit with that cell. Not to say it couldn't strengthen back up. They tend to do those things. But the good news here is with that cell, at least near the Salsa areas, it's moving northeast, and it has weakened a little bit. I want to show you then, again, also, I was going to show you here. So there is a flood advisory in effect, not a flash flood warning, but a flood advisory in effect for Benton and Washington County, and that's just because we saw rain this morning in that area. We've seen rain during the afternoon in that area. So let me show you this, and I keep forgetting that I'm right in front of the monitors. Like, Danny, what are you talking about? You're blocking my view. So we'll show you this here. So once this does load back up, we'll show you that we have seen quite a bit of rain. Maybe if I do just the 12-hour estimate, that might be a little bit better. We've seen quite a bit of rain in that area in Benton, Washington County. So there is a flood advisory. Again, it's not an official flash flood warning, but could see some urban ponding and some low-lying areas, maybe seeing a little bit more water than others. So could see some ponding on the roadways. Just be mindful that if you're in that area, there we go. So you can see a lot of Washington County into southeastern Benton County. So you can see probably some radar estimates anywhere from about, I'd say 1 to 2 inches. So if we go kind of between Fayetteville and Springdale near the Jaws at 3.2, might be a little bit on the high side there. But again, seeing probably 1 to 2 inch accumulation is pretty common up along the area. So just be mindful if you're in those areas, especially Washington County and southeastern Benton County, could see a little bit of kind of localized flooding. But we'll go back to kind of showing you overview of the radar. Again, for the most part, once that line moves through, it's done. You can see kind of where it looks a little bit, not scarier, that's not the right word, but we're a little bit more of those darker reds and that lightning. You can see a lot of that lightning. I'll make the lightning bolts a little bit bigger. As Scott was alluding to, that's where a lot of the lightning is. And notice that it's right over Fayetteville where the game is. So obviously not the greatest circumstance there, but you can see down the lightning bolts, I'm picking them up a little bit. You can see basically grouped in Washington County and all along the line. Usually when there's more lightning, the storm is a little bit stronger. Notice back off to the west. Yes, there is still some lightning, but it's much more sparse. So once again, that line moves through. So basically parts of western Benton County might actually be done for the day for any potential severe weather because that continues to move off to the east. So once that initial line moves through, the severe threat's over. But note that, again, we're still going to see some storms behind it. So as Scott mentioned, 4:30 is the kickoff for now for the game. But we're still going to see storms behind that. So it might be delayed even further. And we had the 8-mile rule, right, where lightning cannot be within an 8-mile radius for 30 minutes. So you got to adhere to that as well. So I got a lot going on here, and I just want to do a quick track of just kind of the whole area here, just kind of give you an idea of where it could be in your neck of the woods. So it's moving roughly at about 40 miles per hour. It's kind of moving northeast, so it can be kind of hard to do it here. So let's just do it kind of for the River Valley first, then for northwest Arkansas. So we'll kind of go like this, kind of through the area here over the next, we'll say 2 or so hours. So Fort Smith, again, basically right now here on your screen. So we'll show you Fort Smith, Mercy Hospital at 124, Greenwood High School 135, the Budweiser can, shout out to Scott for putting that in the MAX system, 140. Everyone knows where that can is in that area. 149 at Mulberry, 155 Charleston, Waldron Airport in the Waldron area about 2 o'clock. Boonville High School at 211, Magazine at 221, Paris at 224, Hartman at 233, Mount Magazine State Park at 239, Clarksville at 246, and New Blaine at 256. That's where the initial line will start, and then again, we still could see some storms behind it. And let me do northwest Arkansas, and then I will send things back to Scott. So let's go to, again, the squall here. We'll go 40 miles per hour. Again, this is the initial line when it's going to be starting here. So let's go kind of like this a little bit. I know some of this is kind of tracking into out of the area here. So Alma here, so I'm kind of tracking into the River Valley as well. Again, but basically right now, White Rock Mountain 125, Purdy 137, Green Forest at 140, Birds Adventure Center at 152, Carrollton at 153, Batavia, I hope I'm saying that right, 203, OR General Store at 208, Horsehead Lake at 211, Jasper at 222, Diamond City at 224, Olvie at 231, Western Grove at 240, and Dodge City at 242, which is off to the west there in north central Arkansas. So again, that's kind of the time frame of it with that initial line. Again, once that line moves through, I think we're done with any severe weather potential, but still could see some storms behind it. So now we'll send it back to Scott with more meticulous analysis. Scott.
I don't know about meticulous, but I do want to share our phone number with folks out there. Here at the station, you can reach us, 479-785-5000. I know my monitor's kind of covering that up. See if I can't slide it out of the area. That's our text message thread here. It comes directly to us at the weather team, and we actually have a little bit of help here this afternoon. Our very own anchor, Emily Moss, also in the studio, kind of helping us stay on top of those text messages, so she'll be tackling some of those as well. I want to go back to live radar area-wide if you're just now checking in on the stream. We do have a pretty active line of strong thunderstorms moving through the area. The good news for us right now is nothing is severe at the moment. Some of these storms at times have pulsed up to right below that threshold needed for a severe thunderstorm warning to be issued, especially here moving into the Fort Smith area, coming out of LaFleur and southern Sequoia counties. That storm moving off towards the east-northeast has been producing winds right around 50 or so miles per hour. 58 is the threshold for a warning to start to pop up. We're watching for that very closely. The other cluster of thunderstorms that is quite strong is across almost the entire Washington County area, including Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville. A lot of lightning there. I know the game hasn't kicked off yet, but there's a lot of lightning. You want to take care of yourself. Lightning is quite dangerous in of its own right out there. These storms moving off towards the east, the environment off towards the east is slightly more favorable for the potential of some additional severe storms. When you look at the storm fuel alone, there's a decent amount out there. In fact, a little bit more than I would have expected, especially the further east you go. Now back off towards the west where it's been raining, there's really not a lot available. We'll see if some of the atmosphere doesn't try to intensify or destabilize once more on the backside of that. Nonetheless, a decent amount of storm fuel out there over the area right now. We'll go back to live Doppler radar. I want to do this. We're going to walk you through Futurecast here in a moment, but first, let me walk you through the last, let's say 2 hours. The last 2 hours we've seen a decent amount of those showers and thunderstorms crossing the state line. The worst likely is just across the state line right now in the Arkansas side, with the exception of in LaFleur County. So from the Sequoia-LaFleur County line towards the southern portions of LaFleur County, that's a pretty strong thunderstorm getting ready to move into Sebastian and Scott counties. Let's be watching that one closely there as well. Haven't seen a lot in the way of rotation today. We didn't expect a lot in the rotation, really. We kept those tornado probabilities rather low. It's not zero, and I need you to hear me say that. There's a reason Danny and I are here today. We're watching all of these cells. Even though you don't see me tracking it on air, when I'm talking, Danny's looking for rotation. When Danny's talking, I'm looking for rotation. So we got you covered here from all aspects of these showers and these storms. Right now, they're behaving mostly. They're still impactful, though. We have so many events from the Craft Festival at War Eagle. In fact, let's take a look into the War Eagle community. That event actually happens there in Madison County. It's going to be moving your direction right now. If you're at the craft fair, yeah, it's going to start to get a little bit more intense as this thunderstorm pushing out of Washington County, tracking towards the northeast over towards the craft fair. I know that's only one of many. There's several other craft fairs around the northwest Arkansas in the River Valley here this afternoon. Widespread soaking rain all up and down 49. I suspect traffic's moving quite slowly out there, especially between the tunnel up towards, let's say, the Springdale exit. And then you continue seeing that cluster of thunderstorms pushing towards, let's say, Madison and Carroll counties. A decent amount of lightning and thunder. Typically, we don't talk a whole lot about that, but given I know there's a lot of people outside, that's why we're talking about it. It also just comes to mind, there's actually a Bear Hollow Hootenanny over in Madison County as well. That's the Ozark Natural Science Center. I was supposed to MC it, but when you ask the weatherman to MC an event, you're guaranteeing thunderstorms. And so unfortunately, I had to cancel that and be here instead, but I'm thinking about the folks there at Ozark Natural Science Center today, putting on a great annual event. Weather's going to be moving in. If y'all folks out there are tuned in on the live stream, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this live stream, though there's no severe warnings, we know there's a lot of folks out there that we could probably reach just through the cell phones alone. So if you're out there, just know the rain's about to intensify. You're probably going to get some gusty winds out of that as well. In fact, I kind of want to look at the winds on the velocity product just to see, yeah, there is a decent amount of winds right here on the leading edge of that line, 46 miles per hour, 45. So moving into Hinesville and Huntsville, you've got 40 to perhaps as high as 46 mile per hour winds coming out of the leading edge of that cell. Those brighter pinks right there would tell us that's that area of some straight line winds. I suspect we're probably going to find much of the same the further south we go back into the River Valley where that other intense storm was. Right now, moving closer to the Doppler radar site. It's going to be kind of tough when it's right on top of the Doppler, but essentially once it moves to the east, we'll have a pretty good handle on that. We'll take a look and see what it shows us anyways, just to be on the safe side. There's 34. There's 30. So gusty winds nonetheless. If you had those Halloween inflatables outside or the big massive skeletons, I hope you brought those down or at least deflated those inflatables, because there's no telling where they're going to end up by the time this storm system passes through the area. We know we had the Poto Balloon Festival out there. Unfortunately, I'm confident the weather is impacting. I haven't heard officially, but I'm confident the weather is impacting the events there in Poto. Unfortunately, this strong storm is really moving into the Fort Smith area. Let me take a look at one of our cameras.
Say, if you go to Mercy, there's a pretty good shot of kind of a shelf kind of moving in there.
Okay, let me pull Mercy, Fort Smith up. Okay, so this is a live look along Rogers Avenue from Mercy Hospital. This is the leading edge of that cell, now moving into the Fort Smith community right here. Kind of turbulent skies out there. There's certainly some impressive winds in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not even some small hail at times mixing in. We did have pea-sized hail a little bit earlier near Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville. It's probably transitioning more to a wind threat, but there could be some pockets of some small hail mixing in there. I can see the wind-driven raindrops coming out of that. You can kind of see the rain blowing sideways almost, which tells us there are some gusty winds nonetheless. It looks like traffic, though, still moving somewhat smoothly there. We'll take a look at our ACHE camera in Fort Smith as well. This is going to be on the south side of town, and it sits a little bit higher up, and we're kind of in the clouds at that point. Can't quite see a whole lot as we look out there, other than visibility is quite reduced given the intensity of that rainfall that's moving into the area. Let's do this. Let's also look at downtown Fayetteville. This is, of course, not far from Razorback Stadium. A few folks out there on the square. Today was the farmer's market. Hope we were able to enjoy it early in the day before some of those showers and thunderstorms moved into the area. Razorback Stadium, just for some context, this camera is looking at from downtown towards the due north. So Razorback Stadium is just over here off towards the west. You can I see it if I were to spin it around. I'm not going to bore you with that right now. I do want to look at our Slim Chickens camera. This is going to give us an idea of traffic conditions on the Fulbright Expressway. This is 71B. The I-49 interchange is right here. You can see it off in the distance. The college would be just to my back here off towards the east. Looks like very little in the way of impacts right there, but some rain, heavy at times, nonetheless, moving into the area. Let's do this. Let's walk you through the latest Futurecast right here. I'm going to back this up. I'm going to walk you through it in real time. This is, Danny, were you using the graph earlier?
I was using the HER and I grid adjusted it a little bit, so
Okay.
it might still be valid.
Yeah, we'll be close enough here. Kind of walk you through the general loose timing. This is 3 o'clock. It would suggest that the heaviest portion of the line is generally in our eastern viewing area, so perhaps Carroll, Madison, Franklin, Johnson, Logan, portions of Scott County. But notice this, there are going to be some additional showers wrapping around on the backside of this system. That low pressure is going to swing some wraparound moisture. So while the worst is probably going to be passing off towards the east, one of the things that Danny and I are going to be tracking very closely is what do those showers on the backside do in terms of lightning? The severe weather threat is going to be notably lower, but there could be a little bit of additional lightning, which could cause us some Razorback game delays going into the next few hours. Overnight tonight, skies clear out. We'll see temperatures drop really quickly. It's going to feel cool out there tomorrow. So that's a primer of kind of what we're looking at right now. We'll send things back over to Danny. Danny, if you want to do some specific storm tracks again for the folks that are just now tuning in, maybe show us that watch, and then I think we can probably wrap this update up. But we're going to be here all day long, and we're providing you frequent updates. For now, though, I'm pleased that things are behaving. This is some good news for us. Impactful weather, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's definitely behaving for us. Again, that's some good news for us. Again, that severe thunderstorm watch is in effect until 6 p.m. for the entire 5 News coverage area. They did trim it back basically from Tulsa eastward now. And so the good news for us is again, once that leading edge moves through, that severe threat, as Scott mentioned, really diminishes. So I think they'll continue to cancel this as it moves from west to east. But that severe thunderstorm watch is in effect until 6 o'clock. Mainly for this, we're seeing some gusty winds, maybe some small hail. Again, the tornado chance is really low. It's not zero, but it's really low. And as Scott's been mentioning, as it moves a little bit farther east into the area where there's a lot of energy to sit on that hasn't seen any rain at all today, we'll be keeping an eye on how that behaves, especially I think in the river valley there once it moves a little bit farther east, what that does. But for right now, things are behaving very well. So you can see if we kind of go around the area here, where kind of the heaviest of the rain is. Fort Smith basically sitting right over you right now in downtown Fort Smith, headed towards the Alma area. Some very heavy rain in the Poto area and the Cameron area, moving through Bacola. We'll start to move through into portions of Sebastian County there towards Mansfield and Greenwood. And then as we go a little bit farther south there in Scott County, in Waldron, in Blackford, that's where the heaviest of the rain is right now, as well as you're probably seeing the gustiest winds, as well as possibly some small hail as well. So this whole line basically extends through the Fort Smith area and then through Winslow, through basically all of Washington County, through now northwestern Madison County, through the Hinesville area where we're seeing, and near the War Eagle area where we're seeing the craft fair there. And so again, continuing to see that track off to the north and to the east. So again, anywhere west of there, we're still seeing some showers and storms as well, still seeing some lightning. So let's put some tracks on, again, just kind of the main line here, because once this main line moves through, we still see some showers and a few rumbles of thunder behind there as well. So we'll put a track on this here, mostly going about 40 miles per hour. And again, for the most part, it's kind of moving a little bit farther northeast. So let's do this here and just go through this part of the region here. So Greenwood High School, let me get off to the left here. Greenwood High School, 128. Alma there at 138 with that specific main line there. 146 in Dyer, 154 at Mercy Hospital. Boonville High School at 157. Magazine 206. Paris at 215. Mount Magazine State Park at about 223. Birds Adventure Center 225. Horsehead Lake at 230. Clarksville at 242. Lamar at 249. Knoxville at 251. Arkansas Nuclear 1 at 301. And then Russellville there at 310. That'll be heading your direction with that area. Now again, with this, there's going to be mainly some gusty winds, possibly up to 50 miles per hour, and some maybe small hail up to penny size. We'll be watching if this does intensify at all, but that's kind of the current basis of it. So we'll now kind of go on the eastern edge of the area here in Carroll and Madison County. We'll put a track on this as well. Again, relatively moving about 40 miles per hour off to the east. So we'll do this kind of main line here. kind of make it off to the east here. So Huntsville, again, basically in just the next couple of minutes, they'll continue to move through Alabama at 131, Berryville at 133, Combs at 136, Cabinal at 140, Oak Grove 143, Green Forest at 146, Rudd at 147, Connor at 150, Venus 154, Coyne at 155, Boston 2 o'clock, Carrollton 201, Burlington 204, and then Omaha there at 206, again, just exiting the region there. So that's an overall setup here across the area. Again, that's where the heaviest of the rain is. That's where probably the strongest of the gusts would be. But you notice behind it too, still seeing some lightning. And as Scott was mentioning, especially for the Razorback game, when you're within 8 miles of that radius of the stadium, there can't be a lightning strike for 30 minutes before play can continue. And of course, that's been delayed until 4:30. So that's the view of us right now. Scott, we'll send it to you if you have any last thoughts or kind of any analysis things to add on.
Yeah, I just want to show this in Madison County one more time. I was looking at those straight line winds coming out of that cell. Now moving into parts of Huntsville. They're down. They were around 40 to 45 miles per hour. And while I still think it's going to be breezy and perhaps problematic for any outdoor tents, things like that, we're still looking about 30 to 35 miles per hour. So my hope is those will continue to weaken as this pushes closer and closer to Huntsville. Those winds are right now right along Highway 412, Highway 16. Between those two landmarks, that's probably going to be where those stronger winds are in Madison County. Hey, we're going to be here for you all day long. We'll provide you another update here in about, let's say, another half hour or so, whether there's a warning or not, just to keep you up to speed with what's happening. If there's a warning in the meantime, we'll certainly be sure to fire up the live stream right here on 5 News Plus, on Facebook, on YouTube, and more updates over on 5 News Plus there as well. For Danny and myself, we'll see you back here in 30 minutes.